Welcome to another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. It's always a pleasure to be here. Get your Coke and your popcorn, your wine, whatever you're drinking and you're eating. Grab the kids, call your neighbor, call your friends, call your auntie, call your nenen, your nieces and nephews, call everybody. Let them know that Simon Says is on. Buckle your seatbelts. We'll take a quick break and come right back. Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode. Welcome back. Welcome back. So we'll have some updates. We had some current affairs. You know how we do it. So let's roll. The Prime Minister visited Clozier and spoke to the residents, basically agreeing with what the contractors and the foreman had to say, which we agreed that they were not on the right track, right? That we needed to hear from an expert, from an engineer, from a civil engineer. And we did. We heard from him over and over and over again. But let's hear what the Prime Minister said to the people, the residents of Clozier. Compliments MTV.
Grenada's Prime Minister Honorable Deacon Mitchell and the parliamentary representative for the St. John constituency Honorable Kireen James on Monday evening met with residents of Clozier to discuss the way forward with regard to the construction of the collapsed road and its implications in the community. The Prime Minister says a team from the Ministry of Infrastructure has been assessing the situation to ascertain the next scope of work regarding the stabilizing of the area. Honorable Mitchell told community members the project will have to be extended given the severity of the unforeseen challenges.
On the 15th of May, there was an initial Nawasa pipe leakage that was observed, and then again on the 27th and the 28th of May, there were additional water leaks from the pipes. Now obviously, we're talking here 6-inch water pipe, and as a result, the leaking of the water would have created major challenges and created more instability on the site. And finally, on the 4th, Mr. Ferry described it, during that night, there appeared to have been a major rupture of the 6-inch pipe, and for perhaps more than 8 hours, water would have escaped onto the site. And you would see it led to a significant collapse of the entire site, including the road, and it started ahead of the one property that is located immediately adjacent to the site. And obviously, as you go there now, you could actually see that the road itself has dropped precipitously, and the entire site goes all the way into the private property upslope. That is significant. And also to address the fact that we have a single-story house which has suffered already damage from the collapsed soil. We have since, at the ministry, also engaged SAFED Inc., represented by Mr. Timothy Bob, who is a senior Grenadian engineer, and he's here with us, to provide additional engineering support to the team at the Ministry of Infrastructure. It therefore means that in order to stabilize the entire site and to complete the process, it is likely we may have to do further engineering of the site, and obviously additional retaining walls and construction work would have to be done.
The Prime Minister says, based on reports and assessment of damages to a house in close proximity to the project, discussion is being held to have the homeowner compensated.
It also means it is most likely that the property that has been impacted would have to be acquired by the government and compensation paid to the property owner, and he's here so that we can have access to that area to be able to make sure that the construction work continues and that there is no further risk of life or injury to property or to any person.
Mitchell says the cost of the project has increased significantly.
The revised cost estimate to the entire project now is in the region of $1.6 million from $250,000. So I'm saying this because we don't want to spend more money. Nobody wants to spend money for spending money's sake. The fact that the entire project has now gone up by a sixfold is a clear indication of the changes to the site that has happened.
Parliamentary representative for the St. John constituency, Honorable Kirin James, says the issue is a national one and therefore it should not be politicized.
And if we are honest with ourselves, this project and the one before that are the two projects that any government, any representative has truly done in a substantive way for the people of Clozier in St. John.
For MTV News, Rachel Bain.
Okay, I'm not sure what the representative just said there and why, but I'm hearing about water pipe break and water pipe leak, and we heard about one broken main, but water. But before that, I have a couple observations. One, Mr. Timothy Bubb, the engineer now hired by the Ministry of Infrastructure, was there and said nothing. Why didn't the Prime Minister let Mr. Timothy Bubb, who is the engineer, speak? He was muted. And secondly, where is the Ministry of Implementation in all of this? Right? We're having some real issues in implementing a project. Not once have we seen or heard the Minister of Implementation or anybody from his ministry or there in Clozier or speaking on the matter. Something is fishy about them. Very fishy. Now, the whole water issue. We know and we've heard the expert speak on it, saying that water or the water is not the problem. Yes, they gang up on the water because they don't know. It is obvious, it is clear that after the weeks of the kukute that's going on up there at Clozier, that the persons involved, including the Ministry of Infrastructure, have no clue what they were doing and what is going on up there at Clozier. But here's a reminder, lest we forget, of why the water is not the problem up there at Clozier.
Saying the same thing. I totally agree with you, Dr. Bob. And because of that background knowledge with the issues that exist, all more for a reason why I'm not blaming, previous administration. I'm just talking in generality of the situation of whoever engineer or engineers that should be working on a project would know that if those situations exist, that you have to be more careful and critical in your design. Remember, we do design for seismic all the time. They do design for seismic in California. They do design for seismic all over the world. So this is not something that's strange. You can actually design, even in your regular residential and commercial design, you take into consideration seismic design for the worst case scenario of a hurricane, or you take into consideration of the worst case scenario for an earthquake. This is something you actually do in residential design. And you put measures in place. For example, just to give you a little hint, in these major tall buildings and high-rise buildings, there are specific walls called shear walls that is designed to resist earthquake loading and seismic loading. So again, if you're going to embark on such a project, and I do agree with you, I think there might have been some misunderstanding and poor judgment in the sense that they did not understand the gravity of the situation. I don't understand why, because we're used to slippage across the western side. Again, the gentleman, Mr. Mitchell said, this is something that is common knowledge in the Clozier area. So, almost a reason why a thorough, boring investigation should have been done. And again, I keep reiterating, I don't understand how you design a retaining wall in an area that is waterlogged without having all the technical data to do that. And based on what I've gathered, this was designed internally in the Ministry of Infrastructure. And rightfully so, Mr. Alvin Brung
He's the permanent secretary.
Right.
Yes.
Great. Awesome. So he has said that he saw the need. So I'm glad he saw that need to look towards outside consulting, because obviously he felt that this cannot be handled internally, and that is not unique. It's okay. It's not a reflection of the horrible nature of the Ministry of Infrastructure. It just means that they may not have the technical ability currently to handle it. Initially, one of the most critical mistakes that was made also, because the soil was not temporarily supported before excavation, what you have is a situation, you have a soil that's not supported, you have a vehicle passing on top of that soil, which adds additional pressure, downward pressure on the soil. Now that soil is going to try to move to accommodate that pressure, and there is nothing supporting that soil. So of course it's going to fail, it's going to collapse, it's going to fail. And that is exactly what's happening. I mean, you see there's a lot of talk and much to do about the water main broke and that caused the soil to fail. But it's actually the other way around. The soil failed because there was nothing to hold it in place. So once that soil settled, that actually broke the water main that was underneath the roadway. And of course, the soil became waterlogged. But again, keep in mind, this soil is not temporarily supported. So if it's waterlogged, vehicles are passing on top of it, there is absolutely certainty that it will fail.
To date, my people, to date, the soil is still not supported. And that is why we still have all that movement, which I'm going to show you on the screen. You'll see photos and so. Till that movement of the soil up at Clozier. No more water main broken, right? But the soil is still moving. Where are the engineers? And I know Mr. Perry is trying to be conservative, but they are to blame. Yes, the Ministry of Infrastructure, where are their engineers? Who was in charge of that project? All of a sudden, the CTO disappeared as well. Since the whole Clozier thing, you have not seen him. He was supposed to go on the Bob report. He did not show up. He was not up there the Sunday with the Prime Minister and the MP and so. He disappeared, right? Where are the other engineers? Where are they? Who's the staff? Who was overlooking that project from the Ministry of Infrastructure? We hire a Mr. Timothy Bob, a civil engineer, but the Prime Minister and the MP talking in the thing. The man sit down in the audience as if he's a resident. The engineer. And the Prime Minister talking things that he don't know about. He's not an engineer. He might be your baby Jesus. You all might think he could walk on water, but he's not an engineer. Let the gentleman speak. But I just want to say that Mr. Perry spoke, man, smoke coming out of his ear and nose and mouth, wherever he has a hole. And you guys still hasn't taken heed and supported the soil. One of the things he also reiterated, that the site is not safe for pedestrians and even the workers. It is unsafe. I remember asking him in a conversation about this Clozier thing, about what should happen. Should everybody just leave this place and let the soil and the bricks and the house fall wherever it may? Because so far, we've been blessed. I wouldn't say lucky. We've been blessed that we hasn't lost a life or have injuries, or should I say, bad injuries, because people has fallen there, right? Serious injuries. We've been blessed so far. In the meantime, the soil continues to slip, and every day the walkway, the crossover, the walkway they did with the ply, every single day they have to gather it and put it back down and fix it, and because it is moving. The residents are afraid to walk on it. Every day it has to be rebuilt. If you look on your screen, you'll see the photos that shows what's going on up there at Clozier. Then on Saturday, the 26th July 2025, it rained. And of course, with no support, we have even more movement of the soil, right? Because it's waterlogged, it's heavy. The area, when you look at the area, especially where the crossover walkway, it looked like a bomb was dropped there. So of course, they started to panic. A notice was put out by the MP of the area, Kirin James, an urgent notice which read, residents of Clozier are urgently advised that the main road into the community is currently impassable and unsafe for walking or driving due to hazardous conditions. As an emergency measure, a bus will depart Guave at 4 p.m., meeting point at the junction of St. Dominic and St. Peter's Street. Today, to transport residents, and that was Saturday the 26th, to transport residents to Clozier via the St. George's route. Bus, and they give the number HAC 759. Please do not attempt to use the damaged roadway. This is a matter of public safety, and your cooperation is greatly appreciated. Stay safe. Apparently, the bus did make that trip through St. George's up to Clozier, and as the last the resident have heard from the MP or anyone in authority directly, right? We continue to put up photos. If you look, you'd see photos of Sunday, what Clozier looked like, or the site looked like on Sunday. On Monday, the 28th July 2025, still not one word from the MP, the Ministry of Infrastructure, anyone in authority. The workers, as the resident said, the workers were very helpful to them. They went back using the same area to get to and from work because they heard nothing of a bus coming to pick them, or so they have to get to work. They have to get to their business. They have to go to school. Well, not school, but whatever their business is that takes them out of Clozier on a day. Life has to continue. And so they still continue to use the path. Bricks was put down for them and they were helped. You can see the workers helping them to cross and stuff like that. On Tuesday, the 29th July 2025, residents continued to use the site to get to work. Falling down, soil moving under them, their feet unstable, still no communication. The residents walking on bare soil Look at the photos. The walkway condemned. Well, it should be because it keep moving and every day they pong it back and if during the day it gone again, it falling apart and all of that. It's more dangerous, really. At least they can see where they're putting their foot on the bare soil, right? Now, sometime during the day on Tuesday, a danger sign was erected on a pole, and that's where the vehicles, the furthest point where vehicles can get to before they get out and walk to their homes. So a danger sign, on the screen you'll see it, was posted saying danger, right? And that they shouldn't use the walkway. And if they walk there, it would be at their own risk. Persons using the sign to get by would be doing it at their own risk. Still no communication from MP Kirin James and persons still passing through. Nothing from the ministry, nothing from anybody, the authorities, but the sign erected. The resident, Mr. Dexter Mitchell, that was on the Bob report, thought it necessary to speak out. And I'm going to read to you what he had to say. He said, this road crisis in Clozier is now at a very critical and concerning stage. The temporary pedestrian walkway is no longer operable, and although the pathway was created through the mud, that too presented challenges. Last evening, villagers were slipping and sliding while making their way home. This morning, villagers once again had to traverse this very challenging, muddy pathway. A sign has now been erected warning that anyone crossing the area is doing it at their own risk. It is not getting any easier for the people of Clozier. And we all can see that and we all can attest to that. If you've been following what was going on up there at Clozier. Folks, up to now, as we speak, or should I say a few minutes ago, right? No word from the authority to the residents of Clozier. Nothing. So they're basically on their own, trying to keep their livelihood, keep their jobs, trying to make ends meet at their businesses. Right? And okay, after Exim, everybody gone down there parading. Nobody's checking on the people up at Clozier. Who's checking on them? Those are Grenadians. They are Grenadians that have been cut off, literally, from Grenada. Who's doing what about it? Who's doing anything about it? Folks, it is serious. The Prime Minister practically trivialized it. Okay, so it was a 200,000 or something job. Now it's a 1.6 million dollar job, and we're gonna pay the man for his house. And it was the water. We stopped the water, so everything is hunky dory. As he said that in his cream pants, Starboy, and he moved on. He moved on. In an update with MP Ron Redhead and the situation down at SGU. First, I want to play you a clip of it's happened in America. Hollywood wives who decided they would pay to cheat for their children to get their degrees and sport and whatever in America. Pay attention.
American prosecutors have charged dozens of people in a multi-million-dollar scheme to help wealthy Americans buy their children's way into some elite universities. Our Washington bureau chief, Joy Malbon, joins me now with more. This is a scandal of enormous propriety. I don't know how to even put it. Joy, tell us a little bit about the scheme, how it worked, and who was involved.
Well, this is huge. I mean, it involves two Hollywood actresses, Academy Award nominee Felicity Huffman from Desperate Housewives and Lori Loughlin, who was in Full House and some Hallmark movies. And the FBI, the IRS, this is a year-long investigation. They allege that wealthy people like those actresses, fashion designers, CEOs, real estate people, they would basically pay a charity, a nonprofit charity that was set up to help their children get into these elite schools, places like Georgetown, UCLA, Stanford. And the schemes, there were two of them. One was basically either to fake an athletic sport, and sometimes the students didn't even play basketball, didn't even play, or not even part of a rowing team, and they would actually fake profiles, Photoshop people's, the students' faces on the bodies of athletes to get them into some of these elite schools. The other scheme involved bribing and paying people to essentially cheat for the students to get higher scores in order to get into these colleges. It's an elaborate scam, and the so-called ringleader, a man called Rick Singer, he will appear in court this afternoon at 2 o'clock and will plead guilty to this.
My goodness. So were the schools themselves implicated, or were they victims as much as anybody else in this?
Well, the FBI says many of the schools did not know, but certainly some of the coaches were bribed. They were part of this scheme. Some of the students didn't even know about the cheating scheme. You know, they would take the test. Sometimes there was one scheme where they would say that they had a medical problem and they were allowed to get some kind of medical dispensation so they could retake the test a second time. They would go to a separate test center, and that's where the cheating would happen. Either someone else would come in and give them the correct answers, or someone would just doctor the test exam themselves. I mean, these are serious crimes, and the FBI has used racketeering as part of this mail fraud and scheme. I mean, it went on for about 7 years, from 2011 to 2018, and something like $25 million was paid out in bribes for wealthy people, essentially, to get their kids into the best colleges, and cheating regular kids, you know, who didn't even have a chance to get in.
Yeah, my goodness. I'm sure we'll hear lots more over the coming days. Appreciate the update, Joy. Thank you.
Thanks.
Now, in a similar situation, similar fashion, only I doubt it had anything to do with millions of money, really. In this case, just crooked, dishonest, deceptive, corrupt politician who is a part of a crooked, deceptive, corrupt administration and party. It was enough, right? Ron Redhead, MP for St. George Northeast, the public relations officer, the voice, the face of the National Democratic Congress, was involved. This individual sometimes represents the cabinet or the administration of the NDC, even though he was fired by the Prime Minister of his ministerial portfolio. Led by party leader and the Prime Minister of the state of Grenada, Deacon Mitchell, has broken his silence. That is, Minister Ron, or MP Ron, should I say, has broken his silence on the fraudulent scandal brought to the public a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of episodes ago, I should say. No defense was mounted, just more lies and trivializing a very serious matter. But you know, growing up, my mom used to say, if you tell one lie, you have to tell another to cover up, and you have to keep on lying. So one lie to cover up another. The NDC party remains mute. He is their PRO. I remember when a certain gentleman had committed fraud in the ministry that he worked. He was the chairman of the NDC then, and Uncle Tilly removed him. The party didn't hide. He said, let the law take its course. That gentleman had skipped town and was in Trinidad and, well, end up in the US now. He's back in the game with the NDC, chairman of a board and other things, right? Uncle Tilly got rid of him. You understand? Now, Mr. Redhead, MP Redhead, is actually on program representing, I don't know if it's a government or the party. You know, with them, we never know. But he was on to the point this past Tuesday. So are we left to believe that it is okay to cheat one's way to getting a master's degree? Is that what we are teaching our people, especially our young people, our youth? The last portfolio that member held was Minister of Youth and Sports. And while in that position, stole a car and sold it as if it was his, collected the money, but couldn't transfer the car, which is obvious it didn't belong to him. Now there's a pattern of dishonesty, of fraudulent behavior. Are we not looking? Are we blind by the fact that we support the NDC administration? Has the NDC, or I don't know if you still have a management committee, and Deacon take over the party, and he have all you doing whatever he wants. You're holding convention every 2 years and all of that, right? I mean, you'll have lost your eyesight as well. Your hearing, your sense of worth, your sense of thinking. Let's hear what the MP had to say onto the point.
It referred to that failing grade that we saw in your course at STU. That's been out on social media and so forth. We saw your grade, of course, change from an F to an C and so forth. You want to comment on that, sir?
No, I don't want to comment on that. But I would say this: that look, when people put out stuff and they try to what I would consider misinform, there are severe consequences to what one does. The picture that is painted there is certainly not true in terms of corruption and I mean it's just.
But I guess you will understand how an individual may feel about it also.
No, well, that's not their business. I'm saying that irrespective of how individual feel, I don't go about spreading, individuals' bank account information, their driver's license, their studies information, ID number, etc. I don't go about doing that. So I'm saying, irrespective of how individual feel, there are systems and policies in place. If you feel in any way, shape, or form that there's a cause for concern and there's a process to resolve it, I think people need to stop majoring in minors. And if you ask me, I am keen on saying when I announce the graduation, I would open it up to the public and the person should come and, and hear the grades.
I'll be at the graduation, MP Ron. If you invite me, I'll be there. Be majoring in minor. As the moderator, as the host of the program said, we saw it with our eyes. The change of grades. What is not true? What is not true, MP Ron Redhead? Aren't you the one who was on right along with breaking news? Bringing facts that you got from the Integrity Commission that was supposed to be private? Now you crying? Huh? Now you're crying? And I don't, and I don't, and I don't? Huh? My question is, what is the NDC as a party saying, first of all, about this? They have no statement to make. They're just quiet. They just mute. What is clear is that this NDC party / administration has been very accommodative to individuals like Ron Redhead and the likes of Minister Andy Williams, Minister for MIT and MP for the South. Very accommodative with the corruption, bribery, deceptiveness, dishonestness, fraudulent acts. Mr. Williams, who took a bribe for $115,000 in exchange for the Cliff Road project, given the contract to Mr. Nelson Louison, Managing Director of CCCCI Limited, which the government has since part ways with. The contract was signed off when the Prime Minister was away, and Minister Andy Williams was sitting as acting Prime Minister and Minister for Infrastructure. The relationship between Mr. Louison and Minister of MIT started with the sale of his property, a house owned by Mr. Williams in Mount Parnassus, St. George, which Mr. Nelson Louison purchased, $600,000, a property among others that was supposed to be held at the Grenada Development Bank as security for the millions of dollars of loans that was given to Mr. Williams, illegally, I might add, by the board of directors, headed by the chairperson of that board, Miss Andrea Saint Bernard, the treasurer of the NDC party, ambassador or special envoy to the government of Grenada and in development and development and the CBI, something to do with and something. She is the envoy, special envoy, ambassador. She's also advisor to the Prime Minister and the government of Grenada. They gave back the securities, all of it, in a deal with Mr. William. Pay us $300,000 by a certain period in time, and you receive your securities, all of them. So right now, the millions he owed the GDP Bank are sitting there unsecured. Unsecured. Yes. He has that 300,000 that he got from the MSME program separately. Then there is the chairman of the National Lottery Authority, and I'm just showing you the pattern of how the NDC party / administration, cabinet, government, whatever you want to call them, led by Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, accommodates, aid and abet, some of it criminal, fraudulent behavior, corruption by members of the parliament, of the cabinet, just friends. In this case, Mr. William Batiste, as chairman of the Lottery Authority. Mr. William Batiste and his girlfriend, the managing director of the authority, whom he gave the job, and him as in Mr. William Batiste, where blatant corruption takes place. And when questioned on it, this is what the Prime Minister had to say.
Would things like that worry you in terms of the optics politically? I mean,
No, I think
there are a bunch of people now with too much time on their hands trying to get their job back because of corruption issues.
we're as transparent a government, I think, as Gray has seen in my lifetime, for sure. And I think if any issues arises and there's credible evidence of stuff, as a Prime Minister, I'm prepared to deal with it. But what I will not...
Did you look into the lotto matter, though?
Yes, I looked at...
Because I looked into it, and there seemed to have been a bit of credibility to some of the issues.
I looked into the issue, and I just said to you, which is why I talked about how you handle conflicts in terms of what the legislation says and what has to happen, right? So I'm saying when people just simply make spurious allegations and come up with all kinds of fanciful stuff, you have to be careful that you don't allow people to draw you in and to make decisions as if you are Jesus Christ and he who is without sin cast the first stone. I'm saying the very nature of our laws recognize that you have situations where someone who serves on a board may have their firm or their business and so on bidding for work that a particular entity is offering. And there's a process and procedure that has to be followed. So I'm saying if someone makes, and you're saying, do I look into the lotto thing simply because I'm hearing media allegations? If someone makes a credible accusation, we will obviously investigate it and then we make necessary decisions that has to be made. But too often, and I think the National Democratic Congress government in the past was allowed itself to be hoodwinked into trying to go after its own and into trying to punish its own and to hold itself at that standard that's almost impossible. When other people are doing all kind of things left, right, and center and getting away with it. So I'm saying we are living in a society where nobody's perfect. And we have to be careful that we don't try and hold people in public office to a perfect standard and then try to hold them at that.
He who is without sin cast the first stone. Hold at a certain standard. No one is perfect. Okay. Now, note here, the Prime Minister said he didn't find the information credible, whilst the interviewer said she found some of the information to be credible. She did look into it. Remember, that's our accredited journalist right there. And so she did look into it, and she found some of it to be credible. Did she report on it outside of that interview? Did we see anywhere where this accredited journalist reported that she found some of the information to be credible? No. Why? Because she's having the best time of her life. In her words, she is living her best life. Here is some of the information reaching Prime Minister and his cabinet from the then line minister at the time, Senator Jonathan Lecret. That's after Ron Redhead got fired as Minister for Youth and Sport.
Now, let us talk about your stewardship in that Ministry of Youth and Sports, because a lot of administrative issues came up, which we will get into with respect to that ministry. One of the major administrative issues that we pressed the Prime Minister on, of course, we should refuse to give answers to. Actually, you might be able to shed some light on this, was your concerns with respect to how the board at the Grenada Lotteries Authority was being managed by the board chairman and by other members of the board. Was that an issue coming into that ministry, first and foremost, that you observed as a difficulty that you needed to address as the line minister? So stop there.
I came into the Ministry of Youth and Sports January of 2024.
Yes.
I immediately got to work, and I must posit at this particular juncture that as a career public servant, coming into the politics, I settled down almost immediately into the two ministries that I was privileged to lead as the policy lead at that particular point in time. Of course, you have to get accustomed to the nuances of the ministry or the sector and the do's and don'ts of the sector, etc., the technical operational aspects of the sectors. But from an administrative and managerial perspective, I settled down, and from a leadership perspective, I settled down pretty quickly and pretty well in those two ministries. Let me be honest with you. I believe that myself and the permanent secretary at the time were very late to the Tea Party, extremely late. I remember meeting one of the workers of the National Lotteries Authority in the supermarket, and they said to me, Minister, you and PS plan to come and have a meeting with us anytime soon? And we said, yes, it's on the list. We're just trying to get our ducks in a row and ensure that we meet with all stakeholders in a very orderly and timely fashion, but National Lottery Authority is on the list. And within weeks,
Same thing. There you go.
and within weeks of that meeting,
Yeah, just one second. All right. How many do we know we are editing there? Good.
and within weeks of that encounter, I met another member of staff who requested that we come and have a meeting with the staff because the staff is under tremendous pressure. They're not being allowed to function in the areas that they have been hired to function in. They are being disrespected. So there were a lot of institutional and organizational issues raised by these two staff members. I did flag them with the permanent secretary because, at the end of the day, she is the accounting officer for the sector anyway. Politicians come, politicians go. So as a result of that, I flagged it with the PS and I said to her, let's see how we can rearrange the series of meetings that we have planned so that we can push National Lotteries Authority up the schedule ladder. Yes? And I said to her, I'm not going to go with you. I'm going to go for myself. So I'm going to go for myself. To not create the aura of a crash down or a storming. It's just the minister casually going to chat with staff to hear their concerns, etc., and to meet with those who requested the meeting, which I did. And when I met with the members of the finance department of the National Lotteries Authority, they pinpointed to me some discrepancies and some financial improprieties that they feel needed to be addressed, because one staff member said to me, I am not going to jail for this, Minister. I am not. As somebody who has worked in finance for a number of years, this should not be happening, and I am not going to jail for this. And as a result of that, I decided to ask for the financials for a particular period, and in screening through the financials, I found some financial improprieties, and I went straight to the permanent secretary and I said, PS, we need to deal with this in a very systematic and a very diplomatic manner. And we agreed that it must be brought before the body who constituted the board of directors in the first place, which is the Cabinet of Grenada. So that took place on the 31st of May, that was a Friday, and I went to the Cabinet on Monday, June 3rd, with all the information that I had. And I laid it before them as it relates to what are we going to do about this particular situation.
Now, can you imagine? You just heard Mr. Lacret there. Can you imagine the Prime Minister saying that that is not credible information? Members of staff meeting the man in the supermarket. And I'll have you know that members of staff spoke to me as well, saying the very said thing Mr. Lacret said there, you know, that they're under pressure, that they're not allowed to do their job as they're accustomed to, that the managing director is bullying them, has to see and oversee everything, right? That the manager director, doing things that they have no clue about, traveling, going to one-day meeting in France, spending 2 weeks, don't know what the meeting was about. Nobody in the lottery authority staff. These are things that was reported to me as well by staff members. And they were calling, asking me, I said it on my program, to call on the Prime Minister and his cabinet to come and investigate what's taking place inside the lottery authority. So he went on to speak on his finding.
Can you articulate or can you shed some light? I'm not too sure how much you can share. You were just saying here that there were financial improprieties. What were some examples of those financial improprieties that the accounting team, the financial team with the Lotteries Authority shared?
There were large sums of money being paid to a particular organization. And that particular organization was receiving those sums of money for the procurement to investigate the matter. Him and the learned Attorney General, and he insisted. I trusted that the Prime Minister was going to investigate the matter and get back to me with feedback as it relates to their findings. But that did not happen. And weeks passed, and I remember sending 2 very cordial emails to the Prime Minister, just reminding him that we said that we were going to have a sit-down meeting with the Board of Directors of the National Lotteries Authority to ascertain whether or not they are in the know as to what is happening as it relates to my findings. And the questions that I have re the building out of these skills training centers. I am still waiting for a response from these 2 emails. Beryl came first week of July, and that was indeed an opportunity to forget that something was happening at the National Lotteries Authority that needed to be addressed. Yes? And I allowed them the space to be able to take care of Carriacou and Petit Martinique, and also to look after our residents in St. Patrick as well as St. Andrew. And around the 3rd week of July, I did motion to the Prime Minister after a cabinet meeting that I would like to just have a brief chat with him, and he obliged. And we spoke, and I said, Prime Minister, is there going to be a time, and now that, we've gone to carry a coup, we've done assessments, etc., and we're now in the recovery and resilience stage in terms of putting preparations in place for recovery and resilience of Karakou. Is there a time that we are going to be able to address the issue that I raised, read the National Lotteries Authority? I do not know if the Honorable Prime Minister felt that I was prying too much, or maybe he felt that this guy is not letting up on this thing. I can't say. Yes, all I know is I walked into the cabinet on the 31st of July, my appointments were revoked, and I was relieved of my duties.
Mr. Bob, you asked to shed light. And when light was shed, it was edited. Poorly too, I might add. He took that to the Prime Minister. The information he got, he took it to the Prime Minister and his cabinet. He also gave Mr. Batiste, that is the then Minister Lacrette, a dismissal letter after his findings. He gave Mr. Batiste a dismissal letter. He couldn't hand one to the managing director as well, which she needed one as well. But the managing director is supposed to be hired by the board of directors. So I guess they have to fire her. Although the board of directors did not hire her in this situation, her boyfriend, the chairman, hired her on his own. Now, the Prime Minister ordered Minister Lacrette at the time to rescind the letter, to take back the letter that he gave to Mr. Batiste, citing he would do his own investigation and deal with the matter. As you heard from Mr. Lacrette, that never happened. And instead, the Prime Minister in a press conference said he had lost trust and confidence in Mr. Lacrette, and therefore had to fire him, had to remove him, take back his portfolios as senator and minister of government. And the rest is history. So to get back on track, because we went a little bit off track there with the corruption and the bribery and that type of thing. So let's get back on track with Mr. Ron Redhead. Ron was fired as Minister of Youth and Sports. We are yet to know the real reason for his dismissal, but we were told it was for him to go finish his studies and spend more time in his constituency. Let me say here and now that Ron Redhead had failed his bachelor's degree at the same institution, the St. George's University, the SGU, sometime before the whole politics thing, before he became an MP, right? So he doesn't hold a bachelor's degree. And that's okay. You don't need a bachelor's degree to be a politician in Grenada or in the Caribbean. As far as I know, you don't need no degree. And some people perform very well in positions without the degree. As a matter of fact, sometimes the ones without the degree perform even better than the ones with the degree, the doctorates, and the you name it. Now, so why cheat to get a degree? It leaves me baffled. Why cheat? Why? Why was it necessary? Lest we forget, has the press conference held or hosted by the Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, to announce his cabinet reshuffle and at the same time the firing of Ron Redhead, the removal of Ron Redhead from his cabinet. Pay close attention to Ron Redhead's demeanor.
I also indicate that the Honorable Ron Redhead, who held the position of Minister for State with responsibility for youth, sports and culture, will demit office as a minister, and he will remain obviously as the Member of Parliament for St. George Northeast. Minister Redhead is doing so that he gets some time off from ministerial responsibility to pursue his academic and educational pursuits. We obviously take the opportunity to wish him well in this. We anticipate that in the not too distant future, he will conclude those academic pursuits and would be in a position, if he so chooses, and if the Prime Minister's agreed, to have him rejoin the cabinet.
When we learned that Ron Redhead got a full scholarship from the government of Grenada to pursue his master's degree at the St. George's University, the SGU, which raised eyebrows because, as I mentioned before, Ron had failed his bachelor's program at that said institution, the SGU. Now, as a legislature, Ron Redhead should have never accessed a government scholarship according to our Constitution, Order 1973, Section 31, subsection 1E. This section addresses disqualification for membership of House of Representatives, right? It further defines in subsection 6 what a government contract is. And therefore, legislatures should not be given government contracts. In this case, a scholarship. Ron's scholarship is a government contract. Section 33, subsection 2C, tenure of title of members of the House of Representatives. Pull up your constitution and go through these sections. And we'll see that Ron Redhead was not supposed to receive a full scholarship or any scholarship from the government of Grenada. He is a parliamentarian. So the question remains, how did MP Ron Redhead receive a government scholarship? And of course, there are more questions than answers. How did MP Ron Redhead get into the master's program at SGU after failing the bachelor's program? Now, questions to the NDC party/administration. What examples are you setting to the youth of the nation? Are you aiding and abetting dishonesty, cheating, and fraud? NDC, are you saying that it is okay to cheat as long as it remains private? And that the issue here is not the cheating, not the fraudulent MP Ron Redhead, your public relations officer, your face, your voice, your PRO. It is not the issue. The issue is who leaked the private information. Is that what it is? So let's keep these things under the rug. How about who facilitated the fraud? Is that okay? Is the leaked information true or false? Is it? Is it false information? Why haven't Ron Redhead or the National Democratic Congress make an official statement? Not going on a program and bending down like Tom Julie and saying, it's much ado about nothing. We need to hear from the NDC administration. We need to hear from advisor to the Prime Minister and government, Dr. Curlin Gilchrist, the department chair, who signed off on the new grade change. What did he say? Was it for wrong calculations? Please note that Simon says, do not believe that the St. George's University, the SGU institution, is a part of this fraudulent scandal and therefore should not be discredited by this scandal. We believe that the institution is a victim of this scandal. As I'm on the whole subject of education and all of that, scholarship and so on, I was driving along the Morris Bishop Highway, came down to the CARICOM roundabout. By the way, the fig tree gone, they got cut down. But more importantly, the wooden structures that bear the names of the different CARICOM islands, CARICOM countries, were being sanded and varnished, getting ready, all redone for the grand event, the Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum 2025. The thing is, while those wooden structures were being done up for showbiz, the students of Westerhall Secondary School are without furniture in some classrooms. Likewise, many other schools and classrooms throughout the length and breadth of Grenada, Carriacou, and the Petite Martinique. How much did it really cost us to do this useless CARICOM roundabout? Those wooden structures exposed to the elements day and night would, of course, need redoing every so often. Structures exposed, especially wood, of course, right? They get dull and, what was the point of it? However much it is costing us to maintain this roundabout, these wooden structures, all in the name of show and tell, is it worth it? Does it worth it? How about our school feeding program, where children go to school these days without a hot meal? Used to be able to access one at school, breakfast, lunch, nothing so. But we're sanding and varnishing wooden structures. And we say we have a CARICOM roundabout. Yeah? And the richest countries, the CARICOM countries, shorter than us by far, they don't have no roundabout, no CARICOM roundabout. No? But we had to show off. What they say show off is an expensive thing. So it's about the photo ops, the optics, the sensationalism, the posing. Just remember, we have the Prime Minister has a photographer. It's like his American Express. Don't leave home without it. Our education system is in shambles, and no effort is being made to fix it, really. Because why? The minister responsible don't know how. In an effort to tick boxes, there are several failed attempts at improving the system. But just trial and error after trial and error. Universal education, without putting things in place for the students that are not academically inclined. We hear it, we keep hearing it. Technical and vocational. Where are the wings in the different schools? There were a couple of them who had it before this, but the others. So we pile up a set of children into the secondary schools. And these days, information reaching me is that the children not even interested in doing the CPEA exams anymore, the common entrance exams that we know it as. And in this particular last CPEA, an invigilator told me that the students, we just saw them idling, some of them, they're just there. And she said, well, what, you're not doing the exams? And they said, Miss, we don't have to. We're going to go to secondary school anyways. This is what we're breeding. That's what we're breeding. So they barely touch their exams. And then they get into secondary school and they call it up, up, and out because they're not capable. They have nothing in place, no system in place for them. And so before this, you say you stay down in Form 1 or you stay down in Form 3. No. It's up, up, and out now. And then we keep them there until they're 18, right? Because they're too young to go out. Teachers are feeling demoralized and are leaving the system. Prematurely, might I add. The whole system is affecting them mentally. Then we have the free school books program. That ran aground. No new books have entered the system over the past 4 school cycle. The system, the Ministry of Education, just before the ending of the school term, changed some of their books without informing the bookstores, and in some cases, without informing the schools. And therefore, they have went ahead, that is the bookstores, and purchased based on last year's information. And so the new books are not available. The free school feeding program has flopped along the way. Principals have sent out notices numerous times to parents letting them know that the program is no more and that they have to send their kids to school with their breakfast and lunches or whatever meal they need. Then they have the free tuition. Schools are struggling to pay their bills because the little tuition, if you want to call it that they picked up from the parents, it was just a means of paying the cleaners, the security, helping with uniforms, sportswear for the students and stuff like that. So now they say, oh, free school tuition right up to college. No need to pay. And so the schools are broke. And in this case, like Tamsisi, the students, we saw them protesting. They have not been getting their labs. because the ministry is unable to subsidize as they should. They can't afford to. Now, we were told, oh, and we've heard it time and time again, that the registration is the most amount of persons, students, registered for the programs at NULO and TAMCC ever. Yes, well, registration is one thing, although, according to data, that's a fib. There was no extra registration taking place in either of those institutions. Registration remained the same, in the same percentage, right? But what is clear is the amount of dropouts, because children, parents can't afford to pay transportation for their children, buy uniforms, pay for the different courses, the instruments, and the that they have to use for some of the courses that they have to purchase. And that is what the former Minister of Education, who knew it, was trying to say to the government side in the parliament when they passed that law, that bill for free tuition throughout, that's okay. But if you're doing that, you have to remember there are students who can't afford school uniforms, who can't afford transportation, right? This is what Honorable Emmeline Pay, member for St. Andrew Southeast, and the now opposition leader, warned about.
But as a member on the other side, who I believe now, I have reason to believe, is deliberately referring to this program as the free education program. Mr. Speaker, it says free tuition program. That's what it is. I heard the member for St. Patrick East said that we criticized this program. Mr. Speaker, if you go back, and I make no joke with these things, if you go back, you would find that I said I supported this. And if I support and I follow with some constructive criticism, nothing wrong with that. Nothing is wrong with that. It is intended to help to make the thing better and to improve for other people, right? Nothing is wrong with that. That nothing. Mr. Speaker, under the free tuition program, I want to just share a few observations, and I'll stick to my own constituency in case you don't want me to go there. So, Mr. Speaker, there's no objection to this program. Absolutely none. You have the money, you could give everybody. We've always said that. We didn't have it to give everybody. You have it to give everybody, no problem. We will talk about that. Mr. Speaker, so if you have enough money now to give everybody free tuition, no problem. I nothing. Mr. Speaker, what I would say is let us be a little more considerate now to the many students who have received free tuition but are still having trouble going to school. Because, Mr. Speaker, having free tuition and no transportation don't make a lot of sense. Mr. Speaker, well, you know, I try to avoid responding, and please don't tempt me too much, because when you say that, and you talking about 2024, I am not talking about 2024. I'm talking about children who dropped out in 2023 because of this problem, Mr. Speaker. So don't tell me what's going to happen in 2024. Try not to disturb me, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, under our administration, we gave free tuition to students, but we did not just stop it at free tuition. Let me just make sure and make it clear, because I don't want anybody to say that I said what did not exist. We did not give to everybody. We could not afford to give to everybody. But we gave to those persons throughout the length and breadth of Grenada who applied and expressed an interest and were in need. But Mr. Speaker, on top of that, we didn't say here is free tuition, that's it. Transportation support was provided, Mr. Speaker. Uniform support was provided, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, supported with exam fees. So you give the free tuition, and now after I would have benefit from the free tuition, I cannot now do the exam because I cannot pay for the exam. So all I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, is this. This is great, free tuition. But it does not benefit many people that I represent, because even when they receive it, they are still unable to assist their children to go to school. So I am not going to say cut it, you know. I'm not going to say cut it and take from the people who could afford. I'm going to say based on your reports, you can now add on transportation, you can now add on meals allowance, you can now add on assistance to pay for examinations based on your glowing reports. Mr. Speaker, all I would add to that, even if it means taking 2 million from the 14 million for independence, even if it means taking something from the 213% increase in CBI revenue, Mr. Speaker, whatever it takes, Mr. Speaker, let us do something for these children more. But you know, that's not the only point that's significant. Because a student who is going to New Law at MCC, who has transportation, let us imagine, they have tuition, they have transportation, they have meal. Mr. Speaker, do you know that in addition to the tuition at MCC and New Law, there are other fees, Mr. Speaker? And Mr. Speaker, some of those can go as high as 1,000 plus. And Mr. Speaker, because of that, there are some students who right now are unable to attend to those institutions because they can only access tuition. Mr. Speaker, I know of a time when tuition was provided, but we also paid for the toolkit. We also paid for the other things where people were not able to access it, but it was necessary to attend school.
So you see, I could not have explained it like that. There were a lot more things that students were given who couldn't afford it, like pay their exam fees and stuff like that. Yeah, when you pay the tuition, if they can't, the parents can't afford a pair of shoes for them to wear, if they can't afford their school clothing, if they can't afford what they need to do their technical and vocational training at NULO and whichever other school they attend that provides that service, what is the point? Months later, Prime Minister got it. On an interview at Boss FM, he agreed that basically what the member for St. Andrew Southeast had said there is all true. Listen to him.
When we do our budget, we don't do a budget just from the perspective of 12 months. We do the budget from a 12-month perspective, yes, because the law requires it, but we also do it from a medium to long-term perspective. So you would see that every year we are going to build on things. So if we take education, for example, we could take TAMCC and, we said we'll do free tuition. You've seen that was in 2023. 2024 and into 2025, you see we're talking about piloting the school bus program so that we recognize transportation is an issue, because even if the students can go to TAMCC for free, but they live in Guelph and they can't afford the bus, or the bus system is inadequate, then it means they may still not be able to go to TAMCCC. So we recognize we have to address that issue as well. But transportation is expensive. It's obviously run by the private sector, and we have to work with them. So that's
hogwash. All this thing about the budget is not done for its long-term budget. Hogwash. Just come and say that we realize that their transportation is expensive and kids are dropping out of school because their parents cannot afford to pay transportation for them to get to TAMCC and NULO. So we got to look into it, right? And they had the pilot school bus program. Is it still piloted? Because we hear nothing about it since it started. And we know that it was a disaster with the card and parents bringing back the card. It was a disaster like everything else done by the NDC. They touch it, it turned to dust. Yeah, everything else. But let's hear what's going on with the pilot school bus program, because it was a pilot. It was done only in St. David's, in a school in St. David's and a school in St. George's or something like that, right? So let's hear what's going on there. And then there were those who learned the hard way, like the cosmetology student or persons wanting to take the cosmetology course at TAMCC, that they have to pay their tuition.
Students of the 2024 cosmetology program, facilitated by the Renew Beauty and the Life Skills Institute in partnership with the T.A. Marshall Community College, are expressing frustration over an extended delay in receiving their certificates, more than 8 months after completing their training. The graduates who completed the program in October of 2024 say they have not received their Caribbean Vocational Qualification (CVQ) certificates, nor have they been issued a certificate of completion from the Renew Institute. They also report a lack of communication and clear guidance regarding their final assessments. Some of the affected students who chose to remain anonymous due to fear of victimization shared how the situation has negatively impacted their professional aspirations.
So we were promised proper training, a CVQ assessment and certification that we will use to further our careers and continue other studies. It's been 8 months since we graduated and we still haven't been assessed. We also didn't get any certificate from the institute itself, like not even something basic to say we completed the course. When I reached out to the instructor, she said things like, if students want certificates, they should message me. But that's not something we should have to request.
And frustrated because it's been going on for so long, and whilst I was doing the course, I had brought it to a few teachers' awareness that what's going on isn't right. I pay my money, I'm waiting to learn this and the other, and they just kind of brushed it to the side, and I think it's unacceptable.
We saw free tuition, so we're thinking, okay, well, cosmetology is free and all this stuff, but we see free tuition. They didn't explain anything on the flyers or anything like that, this program has this amount of payment and whatnot. It was just free tuition and the courses were there. So pretty much everybody thought that it was a free course. Then when we got there and we were registering with our advisors, I guess, the lady was like, didn't you know that the course is she was like, didn't you know that the course is $3,000 or something like that?
Now, there are also growing concerns of the promiscuous behavior of our students of both primary and secondary school, especially our young girls, 11 and 12-year-olds becoming pregnant, some aborting their babies and passing it out in the toilets of our schools. Child sexual molestation on the rise. And today we are faced with a term, Age of Civil Legal Responsibility Amendment Bill. Fancy. Fancy. Just words for abortion. Legislation of sexual predators and abortion amongst minors. That's what it is. That's what it is. You could call it what you want, nice names. The Age of Civil Legal Responsibility Amendment Bill 2025. Abortion. They say consent to any sexual or reproductive health treatment, which we call abortion. And I'm asking, where are the Christians in this so-called Christian society? Nothing. As the young people say, cricket. Where are the prayer warriors? The NDC, they always have prayer breakfast, the women's arm. Speak up, speak out. Everything is a prayer breakfast. Where are your prayer warriors? Sister Joan Purcell and Sister Elizabeth Forsyth, pastor. Where are the conference of churches? Or where is the conference of churches? Heck, where are the God-fearing people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique? Now, you know, since NDC came into office in 2022, Gino melt. Where's Gino? And so we are going to allow Claudette Joseph to give herself the power over our parents and guardians to make the decision for our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, without the knowledge of the parents and guardians. The minister, Cinti daughter, to say or to give permission to our young 12-year-olds, 13, 14, 15 and 16-year-olds to have an abortion without the consent or without the knowledge of their parents. Question is, who's paying? So are they willing to pay for these procedures because they don't want the parents to know that their 12-year-old daughter is going to have an abortion? And what happens if that young child dies of complications? Who's responsible? When the Minister of Legal Affairs, Cinti daughter, gave consent for my 12-year-old daughter or your 15-year-old daughter to have an abortion. Folks, if I understand the law correctly, there is no civil or criminal liability for such. In 2024, this administration, this said NDC administration led by Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, and I saw him in the court. He had a lot to, in the parliament, forgive me. He had a lot to say about the Education Act to increase the compulsory school age to 18 years, stating that children are leaving school too early. Too early. And so they would compulsory, it is compulsory that they remain in school until the age of 18. But it's okay. It's okay for them to go and have an abortion at 12 or 13 without the knowledge of their parents. This bill that I speak of was on the order paper to go through all stages on Thursday, the 24th July, 2025. And I'm going to just read the first page here quickly for you. And it says, Age of Civil Legal Responsibility Amendment Bill 2025. Explanatory notes. This bill seeks to amend the Age of Civil Legal Responsibility Act, Chapter 4A, to vest full legal capacity in minors aged 16 years or older to consent to any sexual or reproductive health treatment, abortion like is one, including diagnostic procedures, without the need for the consent of the minors, parents, or guardians, and to provide for related matters. The bill contains 3 clauses. 1, provide for the short title of the act for which this is the bill. Clause 2 provides for an amendment of Section 2 of the Principal Act to insert a definition of the term minister. Clause 3 provides for the insertion of a new section 4A in the Principal Act to vest full legal capacity in minors aged 16 years old or older to consent or to any sexual or reproductive health treatment, including diagnostic procedures, without the need for the consent of the minor's parents or guardians. Of the minors, the operative word there is minors. The minor's parents or guardians. So consent of the minor's parents or guardians. This new section 4A also permits the minister to make an order vesting legal capacity in minors aged 12 to 16 years to consent to specific sexual or reproductive health treatments, abortion, including diagnostic procedures, without the need for the consent of the minor's parents or guardians, and subject to such conditions or restrictions as the minister may impose. And here we say Senator Honorable Claudette Joseph, nothing honorable about her. Attorney General. Yeah, that's more. You all guys can pull up this bill and read it. That's more. We're moving along. So the bill was on the order paper, and then we had civil society and the opposition speaking out on that, and we had the leader of His Majesty's opposition speaking to the Prime Minister, asking him to just do the first reading of the bill this time around. Let's hear what the leader of His Majesty opposition had to say.
Under no circumstances will the opposition join with the government tomorrow to support the passage of a bill to amend the age for civil legal responsibility from 18 to 16 years, and in some cases to give the minister authority for a 12-year-old to be able to make certain decisions without the consent of a parent. We believe that this bill has far-reaching implications, and it requires public discourse, public engagement, engagement with stakeholders. Therefore, we have called on the government, we've engaged the government side to present this bill for first reading only, so as to allow all stakeholders to be part of this conversation. We are hoping that the government decides not to proceed with the passage of this bill tomorrow.
The Prime Minister did indeed agree to just do the first reading last Thursday. But Simon Says joins with civil society and all other nationals. And there are some, I've seen some of them start speaking out on social media. We join with you guys in asking for the removal, the total removal of that bill from the order people. Many of us are adamant that that bill should be removed from the order people. We stand resolute. Now, just reaching me, it's a letter from the principal of one of our secondary schools. Now, you see, these are the things that you realize that there's no structure, no plan in place, just peckamel, right? A letter dated the 31st of July, which is today, which is now. And it says, "Dear parents, guardians, subject, procurement of electronic textbook for Forms 1 and 2. The Ministry of Education has issued the standardized book list for 2025 to 2026 academic year in circular number 121/2025. The ministry has also informed schools that electronic copies of the approved textbooks for Forms 1 and 2 at the secondary level are currently being procured. As a result, we kindly ask that you discontinue the purchasing of textbooks. I mean, this comes from the procurement of purchasing textbooks, listed for Forms 1 and 2 until further notice. Once the ministry has completed the procurement process, additional information will be provided to you regarding how these electronic textbooks will be distributed and accessed. Yeah, let's take box, man. Let's take box. Because I know that there are parents who already purchased their books. Not everybody wait for after the carnival. Who have already purchased, and they got book lists in some cases from the schools. Mind you, the book list they got in some cases was the old book list when they have changed some of the books as well, right? We appreciate your cooperation and understanding as we work to ensure all students have equal access to the necessary learning resources. Should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact the school's office. Thank you for your attention and support, yours respectively. I mean, this is what we have to deal with as a nation, anything, just you get up and you decide, eat e-books. Because when did this come into play, right? Send to me on my phone as we are speaking here, as we are conversing here today. Folks, we'll take a quick break and come right back. Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode. Welcome back. Free Caribbean Expo. Well, I understand the desperation for a feel-good moment, right? It is disheartening, though, to look at the level of deception and tomfoolery that's displayed in social media, coming from both government, the government of Grenada, the Prime Minister's office, and the NDC's activists and political surrogates. I'll read to you some of what I am speaking about. Let me pull that up here. One of which says, the just concluded Afro-Caribbean Forum was a success for the organizers, but a major win for Grenada and the rest of the Caribbean. Now, someone commented asking, why? Why is it a major win for Grenada and the other Caribbean islands? Crickets. Not a word from the person who posted it. But you know, it's good to just say that. It's a major win. And everybody going to say, yeah. But when you get a question asked, why is it a major? What did we win? Because you see, plenty people, well-attended forum, great camaraderie, food, drink, pet, VIPs. Does that spell success or a win? Question to the gentleman who did the post. However, this comment spelled it out nicely. Dr. Jocelyn Peters, and I quote, we need to carefully examine the advantages and disadvantages of the Africa-Caribbean Trade Forum. Factors such as potential economic benefits, challenges in trade relations, and the impact on both regions' development must be considered. It will be prudent to hold off on forming any conclusions until we have the forum's results and outcomes to analyze. This will give us a clear picture of its effectiveness and overall significance. Here's another. The last time I was this proud to be a Grenadian was, I can't remember. Them young boys raised me nose. Vision is the promise that our people won't perish as a consequence of the folly of their leaders. Vision? Which vision? Whose vision? What was the people, or what has the people of Grenada benefited from that expo that will make or not benefited, that will make us as a people not perish? What has we benefited? And another post which reads, and this one says, from an attorney with no previous experience in politics to the most visible global presence in 3 years. I agree with the visible global presence. I agree with that totally. All self-serving, though. All self-serving. Nothing to do with us, really. And another. Let me ask all you something. What NNP was doing for them 23 years? The NDC articulated our vision, and we are executing it for the benefit of all in 3 years. Hashtag only up from here. Me nose well raised. We looking vision, benefit all, only up from here. I thought after the drone show, the magnificent drone show that wrapped up the 50th anniversary celebrations, and that it was only up from there. I can understand this post, and the individual that posted it. It's not easy watching your food, your livelihood slipping away, going down a slippery slope, and you can do nothing about it. Nothing to save it. I'll do at least one more. This one from Minister Andy Williams. He said, the Afrexim Bank Forum didn't just appear on our shores. This is why leaders must travel. Leaders must go where opportunities are. Development doesn't happen by stating, but it happens by building relationships face to face with those who can invest, support, and collaborate. I guess like the Indians and the $2 million that never made it to our shores. Every successful nation was built to strategic partnerships, on strategic partnerships. Travel isn't a luxury, it's a responsibility. When leaders show up, they open doors that emails and calls alone cannot. We must support leaders who step out to bring real value back home. One trip can secure a lifetime of progress. So what did Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell step out and bring back for us this past few days? What is it he brought? Example, he brought that to Grenada for us. Development? Where are these developments for the millions spent on travel for Prime Minister alone? He overspent on travel in the last budget in an excess of $2 million. That's overspent, eh? What did he bring to us this past couple of days? Folks, over the past couple of days, Grenada hosted the 4th and listen to me carefully, the fourth, right, annual Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum 2025. Now, all you hear that, right? The fourth annual. That means there were 3 forums held before us. Barbados was the first. Then there was Suriname. Last year, the forum was held in the Bahamas, where Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell met Dangote. He was introduced to Dangote by the chairman of the Afrexim Bank. And remember Aisha and all of those? Yes, they were there in the Bahamas. That's where it was hosted last year. So, is he the visionary behind this Afro-Caribbean Forum? Let me hear that. How is he the visionary behind it? Right? The relationship between Afrexim Bank and CARICOM began during COVID, when Mia Motley decided to reach out to the Afrexim Bank for help in supplying us with vaccinations. Deacon Mitchell had absolutely nothing to do with the coming of the Afrexim to the Caribbean or Grenada. So you all, including him, can best as much as you want and tomfools. The thing started in 2022 with Prime Minister Mia Motley of Barbados. Now, in 2023, Barbados negotiated to give home to the Afrexim Bank headquarters, right? So all our fanfare, what we getting? The headquarters would be in Barbados, right? And if you look on the screen, you'll see the photos of the heads helping Mia Motley cut the ribbon, right? Yes, the Afrexim Bank headquarters is not in the country of the so-called visionary leader. It's in Barbados. Now let me read for you the article. I have to read this article for you. And it's Bridgetown, Friday the 4th of August 2023. Professor Benedict O'Mara, President and Chairman of the Board of Directors of African Export-Import Bank, Afrexim Bank, in the company of the Honorable Mia Amor Motley, Prime Minister of Barbados, Dr. the Right Honorable Ralph Gonsalves, Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Honorable Philip Pierre, Prime Minister of St. Lucia, the Honorable Deacon Mitchell, Prime Minister of Grenada, H.E. President Olusegun Obasanjo, former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the Chairman of the Intra-Africa Trade Advisory Council, as well as other dignitaries from Africa and the Caribbean Community region, presided over the official opening of the CARICOM office of the bank, while reaffirming the US $1.5 billion credit limit made available to support eligible CARICOM states. The Afrexim CARICOM office will support the implementation of the partnership agreement between Afrexim Bank and CARICOM member states aimed at expanding Africa-Caribbean trade and investment relations. This move cements Afreximbank's effort to promote and develop trade between Africa and the Caribbean. In line with its diaspora strategy and the African Union's designation of the African diaspora as Africa's sixth region. Speaking at the event, President O'Mara said that the establishment of the Afreximbank CARICOM office remains critical to facilitate operations of the bank in the Caribbean community. It will bring Afrexim products and initiatives closer to the business community and ensures that the bank rapidly ramps up operations to promote stronger relations with the governments in the region towards the pursuit of mutually identified priorities. With the launch of the CARICOM office, we can look forward to a smooth implementation of trade and access to finance initiatives. Broader business organizations across the CARICOM member states and the more impactful results from our partnership. We also look forward to Afreximbank subsidies finding homes in the CARICOM, especially the Fund for Export Development in Africa, that's FIDA, PAPS, and Afrexim Shore. Over time, CARICOM and African financial system will become better integrated for the benefit of our people, he added. In her remarks, Prime Minister of Barbados, the Honorable Mia Amor Motley, stated that Africa has been a loyal friend to the Caribbean, referencing the assistance offered through the African Medical Supplies Platform during COVID-19 pandemic. She said Africa opened its doors to the Caribbean community and facilitated access to equipment, therapeutics, and ultimately vaccines. With the payment mechanisms facilitated through Afrexim Bank, Prime Minister Motley went on to allude the establishment of the Afrexim CARICOM office, noting that this new office is the culmination of promises made by the bank during the first Afrexim Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum held in Barbados in 2022. Now, I don't need to go on more to say that this thing is not our thing. So this visionary Prime Minister, what is the vision? What is the vision that we're speaking of that Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell had when it comes to the Afro-Caribbean Forum just held here? What is it? What is it? You know, yes, the fanfare, the photo ops, all of it, the party and the VIPs that I do believe we have to pay for some of it, right? Because we're hosting. It would have brought revenue to Grenada. Thank you for that. I don't know if that's the visionary part, but 3 was held before, and I'm sure there are more. I'm not sure. Next year we would have it. Some other CARICOM island would host it. You know, we haven't set up Star Boys. managing our country's affairs in the Caribbean these days. Leaders, St. Kitts, Dr. Drew and St. Lucia, Philip J. Pay and Dominica. And they jump planes and they party on the weekends in the different islands. The RSS plane that is being abused, especially by our Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell. It's a big party, it's a big show, it's show business. It's not about us. It's never about us. It's about the power that they have in their hands. As for our Prime Minister, it's all about him. If you guys don't notice, it's a movie. It's about his close friends. Look at him. Just take a look at him there.
It's all about the money, money, money. You could find me from
The best thing about girls trips is the camaraderie.
You know what a point of reference is?
You cut me off, Portia.
Can we just put a button in this because we got the Prime Minister coming?
This is the Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Read the room.
I'm reading the room.
You're not.
You should be ready whenever. Whoa. Because you already know it's coming.
Real Housewives of Atlanta.
He's a movie star. Then go to Hollywood and let's run this country properly. Don't go to Hollywood. Look at his friend. As a matter of fact, he was called the Minister of Tourism. Do we have a new Minister of Tourism?
Nice to meet you finally in person.
Is that another fine minister? Because, baby, these ministers is fine out here in Grenada.
Oh, no, fine minister. Ladies.
Like to say hello.
Cynthia.
Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you as well. Okay, tribal baby. Randall, Minister of Tourism.
How you doing?
I'm a hugger.
All right, we love you. Pleasure to meet you.
Oh, he smells like a bit of heaven. The men over here really have a whole je ne sais quoi.
You are a very good-looking guy.
Hey, thank you.
Get in line, darling, because, you know, Kelly said she had first dibs.
I want a menage a trois.
Go find out what that means. Go find out what she just said there, what it means. I did. But while all of this is happening, my friends, all the partying and the traveling and all of that, and the hosting of expensive forums and bringing back Carifta games almost back to back, we are still operating at a deficit. All of it. We are still. The government of Grenada fiscal summary to May 2025. If you look on the screen, you'll see the slide. The total expenditure, January to May 2025, the target, 589 million, 89.8 million. The actual, 541.6 million. The 2024, for the same period, the actual was 450.8 million. Our spending, as you see, continues to increase, and we continue to spend more than we are making. The total revenues and grants, January to May 2025, target 525.2 million. The actual, and that's 2025, 527.3 million. Same period in 2024, the actual, in a minus, 97.3 million. Now, the 97.3 million is relative to last year, same time, right? The capital expenditure for the period January to May 2025 the target 163.3 million. Actual 164 million. The 2024 actual for the same period 90.8 million. Overall balance, the actual January to May 2024 173.8 million. January to May 2025, we end up with a deficit of 14.3 million. Now, let's go to slide 9. Recurrent expenditure by category year to date. Now, under the IMA expensive, and that's the citizen by investment expensive, for some reason, the 2025 target set is 0.0. The 2025 actual is 0.0. The 2024 actuals for the same period, the IMA expenses was 28.4 million. Now, the 14.3 million deficit would have been more if there wasn't hidden IMA expenses. In other words, if we had, let's say, used the same 28.4 million like was used in that was spent in 2024, then that deficit would have been more. But for some reason, the expenses of the IMA, which they must have, they have staff, and so, right, that's hidden from us. It's showing up in the summary as 0. So no money was spent by the IMA. None. Nothing. Right? 0. So we're operating now on a $14.3 million deficit, which is more once we know how much money was spent by the IMA, right? And by the way, the IMA has started to lay off staff. Things are becoming grimy. We need to know how much was given to the IMA. They must have had bills to pay. So we need to know how much was given to them so we can balance off that, right? On slide 9, the total current expenditure, 360 million. Now that's the total of goods and services, which is 67.3 million. Interest payments, that's on our loans, 22.6 million. Transfers and subsidies, 109 million. IMA expenses, 28.4 million. That is 2024, right? Employee compensation, 132.7 million. And we have total current expenditure, 360 million. That's for 2024. Total current expenditure, January to May 2025. Target, 426.5 million. The actuals, 377.6 million. A plunge. We are operating on a deficit of 14.3 million. And that's according to the Government of Grenada Fiscal Summary, May 2025. Folks, what did we get from the Afrexim Bank Forum? What was put in place for the ordinary man in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, the ordinary businessman, the small business person, this past couple of days. And when I say man here, I'm speaking generally. You know, we say man, we mean man and woman. The ordinary business person. What do we have to offer and to trade with? What are we trading with? Right? What was put in place to help us to get to that point where we can trade? To help us, they inject into our businesses and help us. What did they bring to us? Tell me, why should we continue with CARICOM? What benefits have we been getting from CARICOM? And all this money we spend, CARICOM round about, every minute is a CARICOM heads meeting. We host, how many already? Everybody hosting, they're always gone. What are we getting from that? Genuine question, yeah? Genuine question. We need to know what. What will the African Bank do for the ordinary Grenadian? That's ordinary small business person, the ordinary Grenadian. What would we get from that? These are the things we need to hear from our visionary leaders or leader, because they're not visionary, and they're happy with that. Once they have a visionary leader in Prime Minister Dika Mitchell, that's enough. How has this forum add to or put food on the plates of Grenadians? How has it affected our high cost of living as we struggle on a day-to-day basis? What has changed after this forum? What has changed? Today, tomorrow, next week? Will we be still struggling with the high cost of living while we fetting and gallerying and basking in the fanfare? Barbados will benefit from the headquarters. Yeah, Barbados, not Grenada, Barbados. That's where the vision was. Prime Minister Mia Mottley. Folks, there's loads of poverty in Africa, And we have all these rich people. Dangote, Nigeria is loaded with poverty. It's not helping them. Is he going to help us? Is he in this for us or for him? We would like to know what the Center of Excellence is going to be about. So we hope in the not too distant future to hear about it. And how about the loan we're getting from the Friction Bank? I realize we can't find that anywhere in social media at the moment. So we await. Folks, that's a wrap on today's episode of Simon Says. It's always a pleasure conversing with you, trying to keep them honest. Thank you for viewing yet another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. See you in 2 weeks. we take a break for the carnival season. That's next week. And we'll be right back the following week. Unless there's some breaking news that we have to bring to you. Enjoy your carnival. Be safe, everybody. Stay safe. Don't drink and drive. Young people, get a designated driver. And see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye now. Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.